Welcome to Catskill Weiss Schwarz. In today's video, I will be doing a deck profile for Lycoris Recoil. I will be covering the Pants level 1 combo and the Door level 3 combo. Both combos are from the Lycoris Recoil booster pack, which was released back in the spring of 2024. Eventually, Lycoris would get a premium booster released in June of 2025. Lycoris is a set that I have been playing ever since the first set. I've been playing it since day one. I watched the show just a few months before release. Really enjoyed it. The Lycoris set 1 set was one of my most anticipated sets for 2024. So I started playing with it immediately, tweaking the deck a lot, trying different things. It is a set that for its set 1 felt like it had a lot of really good things going for it, but it was missing just a few key pieces that could help make it consistent enough to do well competitively. Not that it didn't top every now and then, but it was something that relied a little bit too much on luck and canceling at the right time and having really great control of your deck state, which it couldn't always do. Fortunately, with the premium booster, we got a bunch of new tools that helped make the deck more consistent, a lot more powerful. It enabled a lot more tech options in it that provided a lot more utility so that you would have something for almost any given situation. While I still am using combos from the first set, a lot of the pieces that are in this deck come from the premium booster, which really did a huge number to help it out. I went to 2 different Lycoris Recoil Meister Cups in 2025. I did wind up winning both of them. I won them with lists that were very similar to this deck profile. It used the same level 1, level 3 combo. I have tweaked the ratios on a few things. That's mostly what's changed. But the deck does perform incredibly well. Lycoris has a lot of great stuff going for it. It has a lot of great cards waiting in the wings that are sort of meta and format dependent. Very solid deck overall that has just so many cool things that you can do. A lot of good tech options, a lot of good consistency pieces, some really broken cards that probably shouldn't have been printed. This is definitely one of my favorite sets to play. And there's just a lot of great stuff I'm looking forward to talking about. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with the level 0s, I have this encouraging Takina. She is just a climax swapper, which is mostly what we use her for. However, she does have another effect that when you play her to the stage from your hand, if your opponent has 1 or less character in their center stage, you may choose 1 cost 0 or lower character in your opponent's center stage and put it at the bottom of their deck. This does not come up too often, but it's pretty great if your opponent went first and you're going second and you happen to draw this. What's great is it's a cost 0, so if your opponent has just a lone level 1 on their board, you could always just send it to the bottom of their deck, which again doesn't come up too often, but it is pretty great when it does come up. But aside from that, it's just a very solid climax swapper. Most decks will run a climax swapper, and this is a pretty decent one to have. Another one of is this Send Off Mizuki. She is from the trial deck for Lycoris Recoil. Her effect is when you play her from your hand to your stage, or when she's sent from your stage to your waiting room, you could pay 1 stock, discard a card. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 LycoReco or weapon character, reveal it to your opponent, put it to your hand. A very solid drop searcher. It's always great when you have an effect that can trigger at multiple times. Being able to do this on play or on death is just very solid. It's not something I necessarily use every single game, but I'm always glad to have the option, and I always try to keep track of where it is in my deck just because of how powerful it can be. Being able to grab 2 specific characters on play and on death that you might really need to help sculpt your hand for your level 3 combo or for whatever situation you might be in is just really strong. Being able to do that off of 1 card is always just really great. Next, we have our first card from the premium booster. It is an Encountering Tiny Bits of Happiness Chisato. This card is really fantastic. Similar to the first Takina that we looked at, she has an on-play effect that when you play her from your hand, if your opponent's center stage has 1 or less characters, you can choose 1 cost 0 on their center stage and put it to their waiting room. Another good card to have when your opponent went first and you're going second, and maybe just deal with either problem level zeros, maybe it's a runner or something like that, or even a level 1 if it's the only character on their center stage. However, we mostly play her for her second effect, which is very fantastic. It's reminiscent of a card that was in Tokyo Revengers, which got a lot of hype at the time. It's a profile we don't see very often. It says, when you play it from your hand to your stage, you may put the top card of your deck into your clock. If you do, put the top card of your deck into your stock. So in return for taking damage, essentially, you get a free stock out of it. Now it is a blind stock, so you won't know what's going in there, but this card is absolutely fantastic. It's a really great way to either clock yourself to the next level if you need it while still generating resources, and it's also a great way to just build stock even if you don't need to clock yourself necessarily. In a couple of games, I have looped this when I did need to get to the next level, and doing so while maintaining and building stock feels really, really great. Oftentimes when you need to clock yourself to get to another level with most decks, you usually use your Ricky to do that. That requires you to actually pay a stock and then clock yourself. This just straight up builds you stock. Really, really great card. Use it probably 9 out of 10 games that I play with this deck. It's just very, very solid overall. Definitely a good one to have. Next, we have 2 copies of this Walnuts Identity Kermie. She is from the first set. She is just a typical salvage brainstorm. However, her other effect is really why we play her. She says, when you place a climax into your climax area, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck, put them on top of their deck in any order. Now, while this might be decent in the early game, such as when you do your level 1 combo, because if you see a climax and a character on top, you could put the climax on top. That way they'll cancel on 1, and then hopefully you will stick your next damage. The real reason why we play her is because our level 3 combo involves milling cards from the top of your opponent's deck and dealing damage if it's a level 0. This helps set up that first swing that we're going to do, or it tells us if we're going to swing with something else. So while when you're playing your level 3 combo, you do only get to look at the top 2 and it only applies to the first swing, still really, really great to have that top check knowledge, and it always feels really great putting an opponent's climax on top before you use an attack with your level 3 combo. In the past, when we just had set 1, I was using 3 to 4 copies of this just because she was a solid salvage brainstorm, but mostly because the deck at the time had less tools to grab this from places. We did have drop searchers and drop salvagers, but we didn't have a Rico yet, so I felt like I needed to play more copies. Now we have a lot more tools to grab things with, specifically a Rico that we'll get to, so we could pretty much get to this whenever we feel like it. So I lowered her to 2 copies, and it hasn't been a problem. Usually just play her in the back, 1 copy, sometimes 2 if I really need another brainstorm. Next, we have 3 copies of this Plainclothes Takina. She is something that came out in set 1. I haven't played her a ton. She's a more recent addition, but I see that she's been doing very well, including being played at 4 copies in a Lycoris Recoil deck that won a large regional recently. She is a very solid card. Her first effect says that when she gets reversed, if her battle opponent is level 0 or lower, you can put that character into your opponent's stock, then put the bottom card of their stock into their waiting room. Something we've seen a million times. Every set pretty much has these nowadays, these level 0 stock bombers when they get reversed. However, her second effect is very, very interesting, especially when paired with the first effect. Her second effect says that when she becomes reversed in battle, you may put her into your clock. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a LycoReco or weapon character or a specific event, you may put it into your hand. Otherwise, you return the revealed card to this original position. We do not play the event that this hits on. However, having another way to clock yourself and gain stockless advantage, assuming you hit on a character, is always nice. Sometimes your opponent might attack into this first when they're going for their swings for the turn, and if you do and then you use this effect and you reveal a character, you just dug yourself 1 card closer to a climax and hopefully a cancel. A very decent way to be generating advantage, hand advantage in the early game without having to pay stock. I have enjoyed it in my testing. I have been trying to up it to 4 copies. Just need to tweak the ratios a bit more. But overall, a really great card. Also, just the bonus effect of being able to stock bomb problematic characters is nice. Sometimes your opponent might have something like an Aqua Ricky, or Bandream might have their Timoris. Both effects happen when they hit the waiting room. Being able to just circumvent those cards and deny your opponent their effects is always very, very strong. Plus, it's nice when you're going up against random Ayakashi decks that have these level 3s that are actually level 0 on board, and you could just basically bomb them away, making so that they can't loop it. Also very good if you're going up against Standby Hololive. Their big Lunas are level 0s while they're on the stage, and this is just a really easy way to just get rid of them, which is always really nice. Definitely a good card that I probably should have added in sooner. Very underrated. Next, we have 3 copies of this Chosen Place of Belonging Takina. She is a JC. A JC is a jump counter, meaning that when one of your other characters on your stage is attacked, you may pay 1 stock, send this Takina to the waiting room. If you do, bounce that character that's being attacked back to your hand. She also gains 2,000 power on your turn, so she's swinging at 4k on your turn, and she's still 2k defensively, which isn't terrible. We often see JCs get kind of big on your turn, and then they're pretty weak on your opponent's turn. Lately, some have just been weak all the time, so having a 4k that will get over pretty much any level 0 that you could possibly imagine on your turn, plus still being 2k defensively, is very solid. Plus, it is a decent way to have a cheap way of regaining some hand advantage. Maybe you bounce back a Rico or a Ricky or something that you'd rather keep. At worst, you bounce something back, and now you have a card that you could clock with later. I used to have this at 4 copies. I have lowered her to 3. She's definitely good from very early in the game, and she does have her uses as the game progresses. It is always nice bouncing back your level 1 combo with her, which is why I do like to keep her in there. We are playing a Pants level 1 combo, so it's not unreasonable to begin looping our level 1 combo a little bit from time to time, and having a card like this just helps make it easier. Very good card overall. I've had it in there pretty much since the first iteration of this deck, and I've always played her in some capacity. Next, I have 3 copies of this As Long As We're Together Chisato and Takina. I used to have this at 4. She is just a clean cut, so when she gets a reverse, rest something on your stage, move it to an open position of your backstage. She also has another effect where if you have 2 or more other LycoReco or weapon characters, she gets +1 level and 500 power. That is cross turn. Having that cross turn is very good. While 2500 is slightly on the weaker side for a clean cut, gaining that level is very important because it means your opponent, if they are swinging for weaker against her, they cannot side without losing soul because she will be 1 level as long as you meet that condition. And then if they're swinging weaker and they frontal so that they don't lose the soul, when their character gets reversed, you can clean cut something else. A lot of people forget that she's a clean cut all the time. They might swing with something first, kill it, then frontal into this because they sort of have to. Then she'll get the reverse on your opponent's turn and save something. But I do generally really like playing clean cuts. I usually almost always had her at 4. She's been a very solid, reliable card. Bumped her down to 3 copies just so that I could start playing some different zeros in here. And she has been pretty good so far. She is something I do like to see going second most of the time. Next, we have 3 copies of this card from the premium booster. It is an Obligation of a Lycoris Takina. She is just a Rico, so when you play her from your hand to your stage, discard any card from your hand. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck. Then you salvage level X or lower. X is equal to the level of the revealed card. She also has another really interesting effect where when she's in the middle position of your center stage, she gets +1 soul. It's always great to be able to just gain soul for absolutely no reason, especially when it's tied to a card that I would be playing anyway, which is a Rico. I think Ricos are just the best costless hand filters in the game. Great way to get out dead cards in your hand like climaxes or characters you don't want to play, and grab any zero at the very least, like a Ricky or a Brainstorm or something like that. Or if you do hit a higher level card, you can salvage your level 1 combo or your level 3 even. The only downside to her is she is really weak at 500 power. However, it does feel really nice playing her with a climax and just swinging for at least 3 soul if she's in the middle center position. Really great card overall. Definitely a much needed card that was very welcome for the set. It was lacking a Rico before, and sometimes it really did hurt, so she does fix a lot of problems with the deck. Next, we have this obligation of a Lycoris Chisato, playing 3 copies of her. She is just a normal Ricky on play. You pay 1 stock, then put a character from your waiting room at the bottom of your clock. If you do, search your deck for any level 1 or lower character. Notably, she does have a soul trigger. In the soul trigger icon, it's always nice when your zeros have that for absolutely no reason. She already has arguably the best Ricky profile where she's a selective Ricky where you get to choose what goes into your clock rather than putting something from the top of your deck into your clock like most Rickies do. This means that you could set yourself up for color requirements or experience requirements, and you don't risk damaging yourself with a climax. It's just a very, very good, solid card overall. I was always playing her at 4 copies. I recently bumped her down to 3 once I started playing the plainclothes Takina. I just didn't want so many cards in my deck that clocked myself, but it's always easy to grab this card, usually with my Rico or if I trigger a door. I almost have never been in a position where I needed this and just couldn't get to it. So either 3 is still enough where you'll draw her plenty often, or you could very easily get to her. Really great card overall. And definitely something the set needed, since it only had an on-death salvage Ricky before. It did not have a search Ricky, so it's always good when you have those. Next up, we have our level 1 combo. 4 copies of this partner, Chisato and Takina. She works off of this Pants Climax. She is from set 1. She says that when you play her to your stage from your hand, if you have another LycoReco or weapon character, she gains 2000 power for the turn. So she's swinging at 6-5, 7-5 with the climax. Then she has a pretty basic climax combo with 1 twist that does make her a little bit better. She's just a cigarette, so when she attacks, mill 2, salvage level X or lower. X is equal to the level of the cards that were milled. However, she also has an ability that once you do that, you can then look at the top 2 cards of your deck and rearrange them. This is very good for setting up your next swing. It feels really good if you attack with her last and you see a climax and a character next. You could arrange it so that the climax is second. That way you have less characters in your deck, meaning that hopefully you'll take less damage. You get some dead cards out of your deck. It also does help set up your triggers very nicely, and you'll set up the trigger on the first one while also setting up at least the first card milled off of the second one. Really, really great combo overall. I know a lot of people have been moving to door level 1 combo, specifically the door level 1 from the premium booster. While that card is more selective because it does search anything from your deck, I do like when my level 1 combos have a little bit of deck speed. So that is why I have stuck with this. Not that that level 1 door is bad. There is also another level 1 door from the first set that has look at up to 4 essentially, and then it stuns something in your opponent's stage, which is also a decent option. Lycoris is not hurting for level 1 combos. I just really like the synergy with Pants and being able to loop your level 1 combo a bit. Blue is a very good color in this set. A lot of great stuff for blue. Plus, one big reason why I do like playing her is because I play 3 copies of this Halloween costume Takina. She is a pretty standard level 1 profile that we see in most sets, where when you play her out, she gains some power. She gets 1500 power when you play her, but her second effect is when she attacks, if you have experience 2, so if you have at least if the cards in your level equal level 2 or more, when she attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a level 1 or higher card, put it into your stock. So this is just a way to help generate some stock. Notably, unlike a lot of other cards with a similar profile, she does not need a climax in your climax area to actually use that effect. She only needs an experience condition. So this has very good synergy with the level 1 combo, because the level 1 combo sets up our next 2 triggers. So what I normally do is I'll have 2 of my level 1 combo out, and I will have 1 of the Halloween costume Takina. And then I will attack with the first level 1 combo, look at what my next 2 triggers are. Depending on what they are, then I will attack with the Takina. It's just a great way to set up having a level 1 or higher on top of your deck for the Takina. They have a lot of really great synergy. It is swinging decently big at 7k with the climax. And if you really don't have the climax, she is still swinging at 6k the turn you play her, which isn't bad. Plus, you could still get the blind stock. You just won't be able to set it up. I have definitely gotten a lot of stock I probably shouldn't have. I have thought about putting her down to 2 copies, but every time I put her to 2, I don't see her enough, and she is something I like to see pretty often, especially as I'm at any point at level 1 or level 2. Very solid card overall, and they have a lot of really great synergy. I have enjoyed adding her to my deck a lot more than I thought I would. That's it for the level 1s. Next up for the level 2s, we have this Etiquette of an Alcoholic Mizuki. She is a very interesting card from the premium booster. She is effectively just a way to deal with up to 2 characters on your opponent's stage. We did have a bouncer from set 1, but this one it's always nice when a card is able to deal with multiple problems at once or have multiple good effects at once. Her effect is when you play her from your hand to your stage, you could pay a stock, discard a card. If you do, you choose one of your opponent's characters and you bounce it back to their hand. She also has a second effect that says when you play her from your hand to your stage, you can discard a card. If you do, your opponent D-levels something. So as long as they have an appropriate character in their waiting room, you can force them to make a level 1 into a level 0, a level 3 into a level 2. It is just a great way to deal with problem cards, such as Neg Souls, or if you're versing against Shana, you can deal with the Yuji that would stop auto damage. But there's also plenty of other things. It's always nice to be able to deal with 2 problems at once. It's also nice that this card has 2 different ways of solving a similar problem. There might be games where you are using both of her effects at the same time, but there might also be games you're in where you don't necessarily need to pay the stock to bounce them. You just need to de-level them, so it's nice to have that option. A very versatile card overall. I did add more yellow to my deck specifically so that I could play this because she just is that good. Previously, I was on the 2-1 Chisato that originally came out as a promo with set 1, which does have decent synergy with the level 3. That one just says when you play it, you give something a soul for the turn, and then you could send herself to waiting room to bounce an opponent's character. So she has good synergy with your level 3 combo because your level 3 combo is a restander. But this card is just so much more versatile. It's able to deal with problems in different ways, and being able to effectively get rid of 2 opponents' characters is just very, very good. So I have not regretted adding her in. I might still add a bit more yellow just to make her even easier to play out. Next, we have a card from set 1, Place to Meet Mizuki. Her second effect is just when she becomes reverse, if her battle opponent is level 2 or lower, you may reverse that. Nothing special really, doesn't come up a lot. Her first effect is just a Fumio, so when you play her out, pay 1, ditch 1. If you do, your opponent picks a climax in their waiting room, it stays out, everything else in their waiting room gets shuffled into their deck. It's a good way to just deal with a deck that is very compressed, but your opponent left you a large waiting room with not many climaxes in it. Just something that is nice to have. It is relatively cheap, being at only 2 stock total to use her. Definitely not something you use most games, but it is still pretty decent. Our last level 2, which is also a one of, is this Tropical Girl Chisato. She is a stock shuffle. She's a relatively cheap stock shuffle. Stock shuffle is always not as good as a stock swap. She is just when you play her out, if you have 4 or more other characters, you could pay a stock. Then you take your opponent's stock, shuffle it into their deck, put the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. A true stock swap is always better. Set 1 already did have a stock shuffle. It was a 3-2 yellow Kurumi. I like that you can do this at level 2. I like that this is very cheap, being at 2 stock. Bushiroad has made a point of printing stock swap less often and replacing it with stock shuffle, and for some reason they often make stock shuffles just as expensive as a traditional stock swap. So I do like that this is relatively inexpensive. It is a decent decompression tool. It is also something that is not used most games, but sometimes your opponent's deck state is in such a way where they have so much stock where it is worth it just to try to decompress them a little bit and snipe some climaxes out of their deck. She also has a secondary effect, which I think I've only used maybe twice, but it's not terrible, I guess. Where when she attacks, if the character across from her is level 3 or higher, she gets 6,000 power for the turn. That makes her 12-5 without a climax. That's pretty decent, does help deal with early plays mostly. Not a terrible effect to just have in general, but especially when it's tied to some sort of decompression. It's a decent enough card. I would feel weird if I took it out. Sometimes it really does come up, and it is pretty powerful when it does work. Next, I have 3 copies of this Enjoying the Summer Festival Takina. She is an early play, 4 or more early play stock healer, so when you play her out, you can discard a card, put the top card of your deck, of your clock, into your stock. However, if you don't want to do that, instead you are able to draw up to 2 cards, then you discard a card. So if you just need to get some stuff out of your hand, or if you're just lacking on hand a little bit, or need to dig for something, she has a good way of doing that. It's always nice when your early play heal does have some other effect. So if maybe you really don't need the heal that badly, it's nice that she can draw you a little bit. When she attacks, if you have another character, she gets 3,000 power till the end of turn. So she's swinging at 11k. Just on her own, which is actually very strong. She is only 8k cross turn, but she'll pretty much get over most things at 11k on her swing. I play 3 copies of her because the level 1 Halloween costume Takina that we play requires experience 2. So I do need to have typically a blue level 2 or higher going into my level 1 turn. So I play 3 because I would like to ideally play 1 to 2 copies of her while I'm at level 2, but I pretty much always need to level a copy of her. So 3 is just to make sure I see one early enough that I can clock her or level her, or I clock her, if not from hand, I clock her with my Desato Ricky from Waiting Room. That is really why she is at 3. If I didn't have to worry about that experience condition, I would just lower her down to 2. But she is a very solid card. It is always nice when your early plays have a 4 or more early play condition, and being a stock healer is generally pretty great. Next up, we start getting into our level 3 combo. While this does not actually do anything with the climax combo specifically, when you play her out, she can salvage this specific door climax. This door climax is the climax that works with your actual level 3 combo. And that is just one of some really, really great effects that this card has. It came out in the premium booster. What she says after she does that, at the beginning of your climax phase, you can pay a stock, put this card into your waiting room. If you do, you get to take 1 copy of her and 1 copy of her from your hand, and you get to play them to your stage just by paying that 1 stock and discarding 1 card. Then you get to search your deck for a character for some reason, and then those 2 characters that you did play from your hand to your stage get the ability till the end of the turn that during their battle your opponent cannot play events, which means that you're effectively turning off money counters, rest counters on events, which is very good right now considering how powerful Nikkei is. Your Trisato level 3 combo is also a restander, so money counter really destroys that. So giving 2 out of 3 of your level 3 combos protection from events is really, really strong. It's that line of text did not have to be there. It was already a really busted effect. Being able to salvage your climax for free, even if it does have to be a specific climax, was already really strong. Plus, being able to just summon out 2 characters, specific characters maybe, but it is your level 3 combo at least, for 1 less stock than if you just play them normally from your hand, and she just searches your deck for any character when you do that, it is a very, very broken card. She probably only gets away with existing because she's in Lycoris, and Lycoris is still a slightly underpowered set compared to other modern sets, mostly because its finisher is somewhat luck based and it's not as explosive as a lot of modern finishers. But this level 3 support is absolutely insane. It really does help elevate the deck. It lets you do what you want to do for less stock. It gives protection. It gives resources in the form of your climax, while also just getting you a character from your deck for no reason. Most of the time when we see a card that grabs a climax on play, you have to pay a stock to do it, and so that means you're paying 3 stock for a climax. For this, you're essentially paying 3 stock to get a climax, get a character, and play out 2 level 3s for only 3 stock instead. And they will have some protection from events. Really, really broken card. I did have this at 3 copies for a really long time, mostly because she was also something that I wanted to level sometimes just to meet the experience condition on that level 1 Halloween costume Takina. I have recently lowered her to 2. Haven't noticed too much of a change with her. I might bump her back up to 3 just because she is something I want to play every single game, and she just sometimes gets buried early on in my stock, and I can't afford to pay enough of the stock out to get her out, or she'll be stuck in my clock and I can't grab her. And so having 3 copies just makes it a bit more consistent, but you'll never play more than 1 copy of her. You actually can't if you want to use her second effect. But she really is a broken card. She reads like a custom card, which is something I've said in a couple of other videos before. But if any other modern set like Nikkei, Bunny Girl, Bane Dream, if they had something that did exactly what this does for those sets, it would probably be banned pretty quickly. This card really just is that insane. For people who don't know Lycoris, going up against this, I have played people who have no idea what this card does multiple times, and when I explain to them what it does, inevitably they go ahead and ask if they can read the card, because they must think that I'm lying to them, because it just sounds like a card that does more than it should for a lot less than it should cost. Just a really, really great card. It really does help fix a lot of the problems with the deck. One of which was, even though it's minor, being able to do your entire combo for 1 less stock does make a difference, because you do need a decent amount of stock up front to do your full combo. But also not having to sculpt for your climax and being able to just grab a character is just really, really, really great. Probably my favorite card in the entire deck. Just very, very good overall. Next, we have 3 copies of this Days That'll Continue on Takina. She is the first part of this 2-part level 3 combo. The level 3 combo involves playing her and 2 copies, generally, of another Chisato. When you play her from hand, she heals 1. Then she has an effect that when you play the climax, if she's in your center stage, you can marker a copy of this level 3 Chisato from your hand to her. You put it underneath her as a marker. If you do, she gets the ability for the turn that all of your other characters get 3,000 power, and the ability that when those other characters attack, you mill the top card of your opponent's deck. Notably, that is not optional. They must mill. If that card that's milled is level 0 or lower, if it's a card that's level 0 or lower, so it hits on climaxes, you deal 1 damage to your opponent. This is very good. The ideal setup is 1 of her and 2 of your other Chisato, which we'll get to in a moment. Being able to just give your other 2 characters, your other 2 Chisatos, which are restanders, the ability to mill and burn 1 is very, very good. It is somewhat luck dependent, but level 0s are the highest number of cards that are run at a given level in pretty much every Weiss deck. Between your actual level 0 characters and your climaxes, they typically make up some around 28 cards to a deck. Some play a little bit less, some will play more. So odds are you have more than a 50% chance of hitting them. It also feels really great when you mill a climax from your opponent and then burn 1. What feels even better is milling a climax and then burning 1 and it's another climax. Being able to just snipe 2 climaxes off the top for free essentially is just really, really good. Helps ensure that your swings are going to stick. Very solid card. I have also thought about lowering her to 2 copies, but I'm still in that same position where technically I can level her for that experience requirement that keeps popping up. But it's also something where even if we are only ever playing 1 copy of it, it is something that we don't want to get buried into stock or anything like that, which really does not happen where all 3 copies are inaccessible. But at one of the Meister Cups I went to this year for Lycoris Recoil, I did have a game where 2 of them were stuck in clock and one of them was stuck at the very, very bottom of my stock. And so I had to play triple Chisato restander. And I did wind up winning, but it was kind of annoying that I had to do that. So just because of random sackiness that sometimes this game does, I wouldn't want to lower her to 2 copies. When the set first came out and it had less going for it, I did play 4 copies of her, which was too much. But now with the premium booster, there really is no need. 3 is a decent number. She is a very solid card. Technically, as long as you're able to meet the marker condition, you can play out 2 copies of her. That really is not the ideal board. You would get more mills out of it and more potential burn ones, but she is a very solid card. It has a lot of flavor that she works hand in hand with the Chisato. Definitely a very important part of this level 3 combo. Now for the second part of the level 3 combo, we have this Chisato, Days That'll Continue on Chisato. On play, you may choose a LycoReco or a weapon character in your waiting room, and you may return it to your hand. Then her climax combo is at the end of her attack, you may pay 3 stock, discard a card. If you do, you may stand her. So what's pretty great is she is just a normal restander, which is pretty boring, I guess, but what's great is that she pairs extremely well with this Takina. This Takina, ideally, you will have one of this Takina with a Chisato marker under her to meet her cost, and then you will have 2 of these restanders. You'll have the climax. She will give each of them the ability that whenever they attack, mill the top card of their deck, of your opponent's deck. If it's level 0 or lower, burn 1. Because these are restanders, you get to mill the first swing, plus you get to mill the second swing. That is technically the chance to deal 1 damage 4 times if you never miss it, but being able to just hit on climaxes, milling them, and still burning 1 just feels like you're being rewarded for decompressing your opponent. This brainstorm is very, very important, at least for the first swing. It helps you know what the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck are and sets it up so that you can maybe put a climax on top, or if you see that there are no level 0s that are on top, maybe you just swing with the Takina first. That way you don't waste a mill. All these 3 cards just work really, really well together. Combined with that, it just feels very good when playing this combo. While it is possible to whiff, and if your opponent knows what they're playing against and knows how to counter it, maybe they will just start leveling their level 0s or clocking them or trying to get them into stock. But still, your opponent runs so many that they really can't play around it too much. At a certain point, it does get left up to chance, but this combo it pretty much always kills your opponent from level 3 if you're able to do it completely, and I have definitely killed people from mid 2 very consistently with this. I have been killed from a little bit below mid 2 when I'm playing against this if my opponent really just sacks me and just keeps milling climaxes and then burning 1 off the top and hitting another climax and just sticking these swings. Plus being restanders, you have some really nice synergy in terms of side attacks. Sometimes it is nice to gain some soul when you're going against level 3, and then when you restand, you could side for 1. Sometimes it does come up. Very nice. It is a pretty decent combo. A bit more luck based than most other combos that generally just say something to the effect of burn X damage, but this does have a very high ceiling, and the floor is surprisingly not too low. It normally does a pretty decent amount of damage, does do some decent decompression. Definitely the best level 3 combo in Lycoris. The other ones are average to a bit below average. This has always been the favorite combo, I think, amongst most LycoReco players. Just very, very good overall. A card that I recently took out of my deck would be, I just wanted to talk about it because it is pretty interesting, would be this Final Duty Chisato. This was originally a promo that came out with set 1, but it only came out as a promo in Japan. We did not get it for whatever reason. Then when the premium booster came out, they printed this as an SP only in that set, which was a little ridiculous. But then they made it a promo. I believe it was an entry promo at the Meister Cup for Lycoris Recoil. She's pretty cool, but she is very format dependent. I only took her out because she's not as good in the current format, but I was playing her up until pretty recently. She's a global 5, which isn't that interesting, but she also is rest herself. Then you can level swap a character from your level with the character in your waiting room, which is sometimes relevant. The real star standout effect that she has is that while she's on your stage, you cannot receive 4 more auto damage by the effects of your opponent's characters. This is really, really great when you're going up against any deck that says something to the effect of burn 4. Now that 7 Deadly Sins is mostly out of the meta, this becomes less relevant. This was really good back then when you were very likely to go up against that. It just completely shuts down their entire level 3 game. This was also very good against Bane Dream, specifically the Dolores deck. If you crash your board the turn before they go to level 3, but you still have her out in your back row, all of your opponent's Doloreses are forced to swing direct with the climax. With the climax, they'll be swinging for at least 4, meaning that if you cancel on the swing, they have cancel burn that deals the same amount of damage that was canceled. They would be burning for at least 4. But she shuts that down. This was something that I found was really good. People are moving away from Dolores. There are plenty of great cards in Lycoris Recoil, specifically level 0s, that are just really great cards that are worth playing, but this is a set that has no shortage of really good level 0s, so there's just always going to be cards that are left out, which is why a card like this, which I really do love, did recently take out just because it's format dependent, but I thought it was worth mentioning in case anyone who's less familiar with the set wanted a cool tech option. She definitely has a place in certain metas, but without her, this deck is a lot of fun. There's a lot going for it. There are multiple different level 1 combos you could be playing. There's not really any other level 3 combo that's worth playing. The Days That'll Continue On combo really is just that great, but there are so many cool utility cards in this set. There's other early play healers. There's some cool level 2s. There's some decent level 1s. There's a lot of really great level 0s. Overall, it's just a very versatile set. If you're a fan of Lycoris Recoil, now with the premium booster, this is a very solid set to pick up. It's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of flavor with the characters from the show. The art is really great, specifically the art from the premium booster, but the set 1 is no slouch in that department either. A very solid deck overall, with a lot of great options. Its big weakness is that it's not, unless you really high roll with the mills off your level 3 combo, it's not as explosive as some other modern finishers, but she's very consistent in what she sets out to do. So I think she does make a very good choice. She did recently win, I want to say it was the regional in Texas, which had a lot of people, and it was the 8-door variant, not the pants door variant that I'm playing. But I think no matter what you pick at level 1, this is just a very solid set overall. So that is it for this deck profile. Let me know what you think of it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.